We're officially in Custer State Park. The entrance fee is $20 for 7 days. There was a self-service kiosk that we had to use because the other kiosks where like the rangers would be, those are all closed off. So we had to do a self-service kiosk. If you're just driving straight through the park, it's free to use this highway, but we're going to be meandering through, so we had to get the pass. And no more than 2 minutes down the road, we already saw these guys. Just hanging out on the side of the road. So we pulled off to the side of the road because of all the bighorn sheep that were right here on the road, and then there's some up the hill. But we pull off and these cars are flying past us. They're going like right around us. Like the sheep are literally right on the side of the road, and these people are flying by doing like 50 miles an hour. It's just crazy.
They don't care about the animals, and the animals don't care about them, so I guess it works.
Yeah.
He's not even flinching.
Yeah, I'm sure they're used to it because this is a pretty popular highway, but still, it's kind of dangerous. Buffalo! Sorry about that. So our favorite slot machine, anywhere we go, is the buffalo one where they scream, Buffalo!
There's like a stampede of them.
Yeah.
If you know, you know.
Yeah.
So now every time we see them, we have to shout it. We're addicted.
Yeah. So we're more than halfway around the wildlife loop here at Custer State Park. We've seen some animals as we've been going through. We saw the bighorn sheep right away.
Some deer.
The antelope.
Coyote.
We did see a coyote. He ran across the road and then up the hill. But we finally found what we've been looking for on the far south point of the wildlife loop. Check it out.
So just a reminder, these are not actually buffalo. They're bison. When the early explorers from Europe came over, they didn't have a name for these large animals, and they closely resembled buffalo from Asia and Africa that they've seen before. So that's just what they went with, and we just stuck with it. So there are about 1,400 bison here in this park. Oh, that one's laying down. How sweet. We knew we were getting closer because the cow pies, I don't know if it's called something else because they're bison, but the little cow pies were exponentially growing in the fields. So we were like, we must be getting close. I think all 1,400 were in that one field we passed.
So we stopped in the middle of the road. We're over by a parking lot, and there's bison all around this area. One of the bison made eye contact with me, and then he came walking over to the van, and and he just started licking the side of the van because it's got salt on it. They love the taste of salt. There's a few of them that are licking the road, but check this out. Well, I had to roll up the window because this guy is right on the door, and you can just hear him licking through. Well, we've been here about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and they are still going at it. They're just licking the side. I had cleaned off the windows this morning because I knew that we were going to be going through here. I thought it'd be nice to be able to get a good view out the window because all the salt was all over the van. I don't know what would have happened if I had the salt on the windows. I think we would have had a bunch of lick marks all over the windows, but they're just cleaning up the outside of our van right now. We've had at most probably about 5 circled around, 1 in the back and like 2 on each side. But then they'll start to come in and like a bigger bison will come in and like, you know, knock another one out of the way, and then they'll move on. And then when they start to kind of move off, then the smaller calves will move in and try to get like a few licks, and then they move on. They know their place. This is crazy. We do have to be careful though, because some of them have some pretty decent sized horns, and while they're licking, they could potentially start scraping the side of the van. We've heard them like kind of gnaw, but it's not like a gnaw, it's their lips. They're spreading them apart and pushing them together to try to scrape the salt off. But there's a few times that we'll hear like a clink, clank, and I'm just a little worried. I don't want a few scars on Risky because, well, maybe that would be a cool story. I don't know. Having a few horn scrapes on the side of our van because of bison, that's a pretty cool story. Still here. We don't have any lunch. Our battery is almost dead on our van. And now we are at how many licking?
7, 8. But then there's a crowd around them waiting for their turn. Because some of them are in charge and they don't dare mess with them.
So all at once, there's like 8 licking all at the same time. And then they'll step away and then the next bunch will come through. So we're eating snacks. We're eating some of my mom's cookies that she made us before we left. So that's going to get us by. I don't know how long we're going to be stuck here for. Could be all night. This place is open 24 hours, so. Oh, yeah. That's going to help. Just to show you what we're eating. It's a pecan on a Rolo smashed into a pretzel. What are you doing?
I'm going to go out and be like one of them.
What do their eyes look like?
They look just like them, right?
All right, we're going to start the van up and get going.
We've been here about an hour.
Yeah.
And Pete's losing his mind.
We had him contained with some treats that we gave him earlier, but
that only goes so far.
Yeah, it's not going to last forever. Pete, you ready to go? All right, let's do this. We'll start with the van, and hopefully it doesn't get anything going here. Okay, they're all cool. Nobody reacted. Now, how do I get out of here?
I think he feels the exhaust. Or, I don't know, what comes out the front. Look at the baby.
Oh, they're getting pushed. Okay. We're going to see what we can do here. See this fun joint. Here we go.
Front's clear. Bye, guys. Thank you for your service.
I can't wait to see the sides.
There's like all these little lines. Bye, guys.
See you guys later. Thanks so much.
5 stars.
Excellent.
We'll tell our friends. That was so cool. I don't even know how to explain how cool that was. We're just surrounded by buffalo, and these beasts are huge, so big. It was amazing. I highly recommend coming in the winter. There's no one here, and make sure your car's very salty.
Okay, we just left, but we pulled over once we got clear of all the bison. We're gonna check out and see what this looks like. Oh
So bad.
my god! You gotta check this out. They absolutely wrecked the van. I mean, there's no marks or anything that I see right now, but this looks so cool. You can see the windows. It's all the way around. The back? Oh my god! Look at this. They got all the way up into the window here. They're licking the whole edge. I saw this. They turned on the light because they were bumping into it. This is so funny. It's all the way around.
I don't see any scratch marks.
Yeah, I don't see anything.
It's kind of hard to tell, you know?
That experience was totally worth it. It's worth getting this thing cleaned off. It had to be cleaned anyways because we were covered with salt because we've had snow here, and the whole thing was covered. And like I said, I had cleaned the windows off, but this is totally worth it. This is so cool. Well, they do have prairie dogs here, and they're out right now in the wintertime. You can hear them. One came running up to us as we pulled up and was like barking at us, and then stared us down and then dove into the hole. I think they call them the sentry because they are basically just monitoring and making sure that the whole colony is going to be okay.
Yeah, of course.
We get over 700. Told you 40 flights.
This is what gives Jewel Cave its name. So we'll talk a lot more in depth about what these are later. But if you want to picture yourself in Michaux's shoes and you were walking into the cave for the first time and this is what you're seeing, what would be your first guess as to what this mineral is?
Diamond.
Diamonds, so they might have thought it was diamonds. Now they knew diamonds might be a little bit deeper underground than just right at that surface level. What originally they thought they were looking at was quartz here. 360 million years ago, the surface above us looked quite a bit different than it does today. Obviously, we were covered in a shallow inland sea. And within this sea, I want you to note that there were a few sea creatures living here, and most notable was something called a brachiopod. Brachiopods kind of look like your modern-day seashell, and most importantly, those shells are made out of the mineral calcium. Once these brachiopods begin to die, they actually sink to the bottom of this sea, they mix with some sediments found on that sea floor, and eventually compress from the pressure of that water. And once they compress, they form a sedimentary layer called the Paha-Sapa limestone. The Paha-Sapa limestone is what we can see just right behind us. It's kind of that white rock that you're looking at. That's about 450 feet thick. All of Jewel Cave lies within that limestone layer. And Paha-Sapa in Dakota means fields of black, so that's kind of where it gets its name from. But I'm fairly confident that most of you guys did not come to Jewel Cave today to see some limestone. Hopefully you all came and you wanted to see the jewels of Jewel Cave. But those jewels we don't think started to form until about 60 million years ago. So for 300 million years, from 360 million years ago to 60 million years ago, there's not a ton of events that are happening here in the Black Hills in terms of geologic events. But about 60 million years ago, we think we had an event called the Black Hills Uplift. It was part of the Laramide orogeny, which that's the Rocky Mountain Formation. The Black Hills are actually kind of an offset of that Rocky Mountain Formation. What ends up happening is some magma is pushed up, and that creates tectonic movement. That movement then eventually pushes a granite layer through our limestone and creates the Black Hills that you guys can see today. A lot of evidence of that granite layer existing and being pushed through that limestone, especially if you go up to Mount Rushmore, you go up the Needles Highway and you see the cathedral spires in Custer State Park. All of that rock that you're looking at is granite. But as that granite is actually pushed through our limestone, it's pushed with such a force that it completely fractures that limestone layer that we just looked at behind us. And those fractures then allow that water from the sea to start seeping through. And as that water begins to seep through, it picks up, it interacts with carbon, which is naturally found in Earth's soil. And when water mixes with carbon, it creates a weak acid that we're probably all familiar with, called carbonic acid. Has anybody in here had a nice glass of carbonic acid before? Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably most of us. All of us are familiar with what a soda is, a seltzer. Anything that's carbonated has that acid in there. And what I want you to imagine is, let's say you decided to drink a Coca-Cola or a soda after this tour, and then you leave that in your mouth for 60 million years. Because that's exactly what happened here at Jewel Cave. Obviously, you're going to imagine your teeth are not going to hold up that long. That acid will eat away at the calcium. That's going to create cavities. And that's exactly what happened. But in Jewel Cave's case, we get a 220-mile long, I guess you could call it a cavity under the ground. Come on now, that was my best joke of the tour. Water actually drips through the middle of the straw, and it pushes the rings of calcium deposits to the outside. When a stalactite forms, typically the water drips on the outside of the stalactite, and it plugs it up at that point. And you can tell it's a soda straw by that uniform diameter that it has, that uniform width. When you look at a stalactite, obviously you can see it has that thick top, and it comes to that point on the bottom. On there. And that's where that gray color is coming from. And that can actually prevent it or slow it down from growing for about 100 years or so every time we get more of that oil on there. So I just kind of usually like to point that out. It's kind of neat. Unfortunately, nobody intends to do that. It's just because there's no gate there. So that was one of the things we've been wanting to do for a while. That is a drapery, or you could call it a curtain or a ribbon. We just like to call it cave bacon. But when Herb and Jan moved to the Black Hills from the DC area, they had no intentions of becoming cavers. In fact, they were very well known for their rock climbing abilities. And eventually, Herb and Jan pretty much scaled all of the spires around here. Every peak that you see, Herb and Jan have probably been to the top of. Now, Herb and Jan, they were interested in this caving aspect, but they weren't exactly intrigued yet. Until Dwight Neal invites them on a caving orientation trip. It's just supposed to be about 4 hours or so. They're not supposed to find anything. They're just going to come through, kind of check out Jewel Cave. And Herb and Jan thought they would never return after that trip. They agreed to this, reluctantly, of course. They wanted to go on some of these rock climbing trips, and this was going to take away from it. But they figured they could come down here and at least check it out. And on that fateful day, when they came out and they started to explore this area, they crawled back to that 2-mile marker. Again, that's all we knew of from 1908 until 1959. They got to that 2-mile marker, and what they saw was something that would hook their interest for the next 22 years. That day, they crawled through hundreds and hundreds of feet of new passages that nobody on this earth had ever seen before. And as Herb and Jan began to crawl through those passages, they realized they were starting to fall in love with this place. And what I mean by that is, for the next 22 years, from 1959 to 1983, they would explore this area and they would uncover about 65 miles of brand new passages. And in that time, they would spend about 6,000 hours of their lives down here. To put that in perspective, that's about 3 years of your life just in a cave. And once they retired, they would leave us behind with one last thing that was rather extraordinary. And it relates to the continuation of Jewel Cave story even today. And that was how many miles of passages that they thought we had left to explore here. Herb Kahn was a brilliant mathematician, and he was able to use his skills at the historic entrance of the cave. With technologies of 1983, he measured how much air was coming in and out through that passage, and he got an air volume measurement, which told him that the 65 miles that they had found was probably less than 1% of the entire cave. Now that, again, is technology back in the 1980s, but even today in 2024, going into 2025, it's some of the best calculation that we've done was based on Herb Kahn's calculations there. And it's very accurate. Right now, we think that our 220 miles is about 3% of this cave, anywhere between 3 and 5%. And that predicts that there might be over 7,000 miles of passages left to explore. To leave you with one final thought today, you'll have seen a half mile. That is a half mile of the potential 7,000 that could be left out there to explore. This could easily be the longest cave in the world, and we just don't know it yet. And that's why we continue with Jewel Cave Story. That's why we continue to explore this cave, and I hope you'll just kind of put that into perspective, taking that away from your tour today.
you, Lexi. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
We just got done at Jewel Cave National Monument. It's the 5th largest cave in the entire world.
The whole world. That's so cool.
We did about a half mile going up and down stairs. There's over 725 steps. So it's equal to doing 40 flights of stairs.
But you do it nice and easy, so
Yeah.
I'm not complaining. They think that they've estimated that that's only about 3% of the entire cave that they've discovered. 220 miles.
Yeah. They estimate that there's over 7,000 miles of cave.
Thanks.
Also at the end, go over to the merchandise shop and ask for your Junior Ranger badge. They're very special. Check this out.
And you get a book. Activities. It's for kids, but
Yeah.
they'll fill the time.
So Ashley's going to keep her badge, and I'm going to donate mine to our little buddy who had to wait in the car for an hour and a half. So we're here in December. The tour is supposed to go for about an hour and 20 minutes. We only had about 13 people in our group today, and usually they take about 30 per group. So we were able to stop along the way and look at some specific things that they usually can't point out when they're doing this.
Our tour guide, we found out near the end, is graduating high school. She did not seem like a high school kid at all. Mm-mm.
She was so well spoken. She was very well educated on the cave.
Very knowledgeable and confident and totally thought she was an adult. So Derek had asked a really good question. Why is this cave, Jewel Cave, just a monument and not a national park like Wind Cave? And she had mentioned that it only takes a president to make something a national monument, and it takes Congress to get it to be a national park. And there's a lot more steps that need to be involved. And then with that, also, you need to consider what else you're trying to protect, because it's mostly you're trying to protect something. So Jewel Cave just has the cave, and that's it. Wind Cave, for example, has the cave, and they have all the bison on the top level, top floor, above ground. And also it has a huge, deep history of the Dakota. So there's some historical significance, some animals, and the protections that all go along with that. So that's why it's just a monument for now.
Is that the tail?
They wanted to turn that artificial opening that had been created coming straight down. Basically.
Okay, so if you're looking for the path to get out to the Wind Cave hole where you can feel the breeze coming in and out, like the breathing of the earth, you're going to want to come down the stairs here at the Visitor Center. There's like a whole area that you can check out here, read a little bit about the area, but you're going to head out the stairs, and then there's a path that goes straight out from the end of the stairway. right now we're here in December of 2024, and Wind Cave has been closed down since I believe May, and may not be expected to open up until February. But because of that, the entire cave is closed down, so there's no tours that are going on right now. But we did sit in on a virtual tour. It was maybe about 25 minutes, and they had a legitimate virtual tour going through the cave. They used some very good cameras that got shot by shot of the inside of the cave. And then they had a ranger that just spoke about it just as you were, as if you were on the cave tour itself. So definitely something to, sit down, check out. If you're in the area, you can still enjoy the cave and then enjoy everything else around here. So Wind Cave is very special to the Lakota people. They actually believe that this is where they were created. So their creator created them beneath the earth, opened a hole that allowed them to come out of basically this cave area, and then closed the cave just enough so they can still come back and look back at where they came from. So the hole is still there, but it was closed up just enough. So just behind me, you can see there are a lot of flags. There's little memorabilia pieces that are put here to just honor that.